back, everybody. Episode number 5. Today we're going to be going over our application, interviewing, and preparing for first year, and all the things that are entailed with that. We'll start off first with our personal statement, one of the bigger parts of your application.
Yeah.
How to make yourself look good with that.
So how long did you work on yours?
I didn't want to spend too much time on it. I probably put in 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah. I feel like I probably spent more time.
I put a lot in it. Like I had like multiple eyes on it. Like I had like 9 or 10 edits probably. Like it was like
I was like sending it to relatives.
Yeah,
like
exactly. That was me too.
But I think we have a pretty solid trend of like Kyle kind of just shotgunned into this.
Yeah.
You're like medium, and I was like, I spent way too much time on everything.
Don't get me wrong. I sent mine to people and like, put time into it, but yeah, total time.
It just goes to show you though that like we're all different, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's the whole thing with these videos. It's like we're just talking about like kind of what we did, and we're giving suggestions of kind of the base knowledge of what like or tips, I guess, base tips that you should use. But if like whatever works for you will work, right? So for me, it was, I worked on it for it seemed like weeks, like not like straight, obviously,
a
lot of revisions, and it worked out. But then here's Kyle, did it less time, and it worked out for him as well.
Yeah. So just like big picture, broad picture, I guess maybe a step back. In your application, you have personal statement. You have obviously your GPA and grades that we've already talked about, DAT score. You also have your coursework that they're going to be able to have access to,
like
your transcript.
Things,
and then lastly, your letters of recommendation.
DAT,
I said that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so like all of those things together are your application. Your personal statement, the reason why I think a lot of people find it important is because that's like your only place that your voice comes out.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's your only chance to say what you got to say.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I think
Other than any of the networking that you've done.
Right. But in like the packaged application, this is it.
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of people stress about it. That's why I stressed about it. I was like, oh no, everything about me has to like make it into these couple hundred words, which I think it's debatable like how important it is. Regardless, it is part of the application. Different admissions committees may use it differently. So just make sure it's good. Make sure that it's solid. There's no grammatical errors, obviously. That it has your voice in it, right? And it's just funny because like every single one of them, I guarantee everyone in our class was like, "This is why I want to be a dentist," right?
Yeah.
Like
well, that's I think like the prompt,
ways.
right? It's like most.
Yeah.
So it's like you can come up with super unique ways, which I think is probably better than not coming up with a unique way. But I think it just gives you opportunity to kind of be yourself, and you can do that, right? So do that in however way you feel comfortable. So I think it's important.
People.
I do
definitely send it to people who are going to shoot you straight, tell you what shouldn't be in there, what should. Make sure.
Like for me, like what I took the opportunity to like explain kind of my transcript because like I very much was like we've mentioned in previous episodes, like I was not even thinking about dentistry my first like freshman sophomore year of undergrad. So I had all these business courses that like I was just kind of coasting through.
Right.
And then like there was a distinct semester where my grades were taking science classes and they were going up. So, like, I wanted to let them know, like, hey, this was the time that I decided to go dentistry. Yeah, like, it was just kind of, like, for me to, like, let them know, like, this is the reason why behind, like, the story that my transcript maybe, like, shows, but might not be the full picture. So, like, the personal statement was just, like, kind of helped me, like, explain more so of why I had, this, like, the things I had on my application.
For sure. One thing I think that the personal statement can also do is like kind of screw your application, right? It's like that's the other thing you want to watch out for and to be really careful of when you talk to people. It's like if you do have grammatical errors, if you didn't outline it very well, if it's not making sense, then that like reflects on your communication skills, which is like the harsh reality, but like that's something that they'll see and be like, maybe we don't invite them for an interview, right? And so that would be another reason to get a lot of eyes on it, right? And make sure that it's as solid as you can make it. So
I think if you're having struggles, where to start, go to YouTube, search personal statements. Something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
tons of
Easy to find some resources.
I
for
bet,
it.
yeah, undergrads too. Like undergrads have stuff like that.
Yeah, you got
You know?
writing centers. You've got your pre-health advisement office knows all about this stuff.
Yeah, like I took mine to, like I took a business writing course, like how to write like good emails and stuff. And I loved the professor, and I took my personal statement, and he was like, "Yeah, we should like circle back on this because like we need to work on it quite a bit." So, like people are willing to help, and I think bouncing ideas off of the others like kind of gets you like at least just good feedback of a good direction to go. Right?
I think that's just like a common theme throughout the whole application is you're just trying to have the best reflection of you that you can make, right? Definitely. So going to letters of recommendation, right? Who did you guys have write them, or who would you recommend people focus on, and how would you prepare those letter writers?
I know that some schools require specific ones,
True.
right? So
True.
like, for instance, they could be like, we want 2 science professor letters, or we want a dentist to write a letter, or like someone of your choosing. And I think usually it's a minimum of 3. Like check the like different schools that you're applying to. But I think max 4. Like I think I did 4. I think I had 4 as well.
Yeah.
Where it was 2 science. I think I had my chemistry professor and my biology professor, and then I had like a dentist write it, and then I can't remember who the 4th guy was, but so make sure that you know what they're asking for, and then once you do know, you got to make that relationship. Like for me, like I went to a smaller undergrad, so it was easier because like our class sizes were a lot smaller. Right. So I was able to like really go meet with the professor a lot. Right.
At my school, like in our chemistry classes, we'd have like 200, 300 people. So I actually went to one of my chemistry professors in his office hours, and I sat down with him and I said, I actually knew that he had written a letter for my cousin and that it had gone really well for him. And so I sat down with him and I just kind of like posed the question, would you be willing to write this letter for me? And he just said no. And it actually, I think he was doing me a favor. Yeah. He was like, listen, I don't say it because I'm rude. Like I write a lot of letters for people, but I don't know who you are. All I could tell them is what grade you got in my class. That's the only thing I know about you and your name. And
which
you came into my office.
Rare, right? I bet that's rare.
Right.
Like a professor would say that.
Yes. Oh, totally rare. Like I think that at the undergrad I went to, I'm sure they like frown on that in the different departments, that the department chairs like really push them to like write letters when people ask for them. But he did me a huge favor, and he kind of helped me. He stopped and spent a few minutes with me to brainstorm some other professors I might be able to go to. Cool. And even like classes I haven't taken yet, he's like, why don't you on day 1 of class go up to them and tell them after the lecture, like, look, I'm applying to dental school this year, and I need to have a relationship with someone that can write a letter about me. And I'm hoping that could be you potentially. I'd like to come meet with you a few times throughout the semester and just keep tabs on how I'm doing. And so that's what I did in my physics class. And I think that was like 100% the move. I think that awesome. I got a much better letter out of that. So thanks to my chemistry teacher for saying no, but I think I learned a lot from that actually.
Definitely. I think if you're having a hard time figuring out who to get to write your letters as well, if you haven't seen the last episode, go watch that. I think mentors, people that you've worked with for a long time who really know you, like Jared was saying, if the person knows you, they're going to be a lot more likely to write it for you. So find someone who's seen the good sides of you and seen, had opportunities to know who you really are.
Right.
And I think for like, we're talking about personal statements first, then we did letters of recommendation. It's like, there's a sense of like, of course your personal statement is going to send all the highlights. You're going to give like the highlight reel of yourself, right? But letters of recommendation kind of gives the school the idea of like, okay, what do other people think of you? Like your character or your...
How do they perform in their specific situations?
Exactly, right? So like for me, like the letters of recommendation was really hard because like it was out of my control, right? So how I tried to make that more controllable was I would go to the professors and I would say, hey, are you willing to write me like a good letter? And like that was like kind of bold. I came out like pretty blunt, right? Yeah. But like for me, this is like my application, and it's like if I ask that question straight up, they're going to be thinking, if they agree to write that letter, they're going to put more thought into that than just some random like outline letter that they maybe do for other students, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like control it as much as you can by getting to know the professor, putting in the time, and straight up asking them, are you willing to write me a good letter? Like, that helped me a ton, and I know for a fact that my letters were okay.
Yeah.
Like, at least like decent, right? Because
Yeah.
like there was some people that were like, I haven't, like, I don't know you that well. Like, I didn't have a no. But like, if they were like, yeah, maybe, you know, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to someone that like I've been working with for longer, or that I was in their office hours more, or whatever.
Right.
So
Another thing to make it easier for them is like provide them with your personal statement. Once that's done, get it to your letter writer so they can kind of get an idea of what you're already saying. Have discussions with them. I think that one of the letter writers I had kind of helped explain away some of my like weaker points of my application. Which I thought was really nice. That was a great idea of his. Give them some, like, your resume, you know, other things that probably aren't a part of your application. Tell them what you've done in your life. If you were working during undergrad, things like that. Just anything, right? Just to give them ammo for what they can put in that and say, and try and paint a good picture of who you
just
are.
make it easy for them.
Yeah, make it easy for them.
And give them enough time to. I had made the mistake of putting off my letters and didn't give my my faculty a lot of time to write my letters,
Right.
which I think was a mistake. Obviously,
It was a necessity of your
But
circumstance.
yeah, I didn't put a lot of thought into the letters of recommendation beforehand, and I think looking back, if I had given them more time, I don't know what they said, but I
Right.
think value-wise, it would have been way better if they had a month or, you know, more to think about what they were going to say.
Yeah, that's tricky too, because technically you're not supposed to see the letters, right? That's part of the deal, is that they send them through the system. The school can read them, but you're not supposed to be able
Yeah,
to see
you like
them.
waive your right.
Yeah, you waive your right to
Yeah.
read it. So having someone that you trust and that, you know, is going to write you an excellent letter, because you're not just looking for a letter.
Yeah.
It might feel like that sometimes. You're like, oh, who's it going to be? But you need an excellent letter, right?
And this is like something that you'll continue to do if you want to go to specialty programs, right?
Yeah.
Like you know, Kyle wants to do endo, Jared wants to do pros. Like, I was thinking of doing like a GPR, AGD, and like we had to get letters, right? So it's like, this is something that you'll continue to do. And circling back to like one of the mentor episodes, the same thing. It's like, you're just trying to create relationships where they'll go to bat for you.
Yeah.
And if they go to bat for you, your chances of getting in are a lot better if then like compared to if they don't.
Yeah, so you're sharing the reputation of someone who has more credibility than you.
Totally.
Right, and if they're willing to stick their neck out for you, obviously they're going to want to do that for someone that they know and that they care for and that they think is going to be an asset to that field, right?
Totally.
Cool.
So yeah, we have the personal statement, we have letters of recommendation, and Jared mentioned the other aspects of the application. It's pretty straightforward, you know, and you can watch videos. I know, like, you know, the ADEA, like they have
ADSAS.
yeah, and they have like recommendations of when to do it, when to like turn in your
I will
application.
say, I think that there is something to be said about doing early applications.
Oh, totally.
I think I submitted my application within a week of it being open.
Yeah.
Because a lot of schools do rolling admissions, and so once they're full, they're full. And so, like, if you're in the early groups and you get eyes on your application sooner, you're more likely to get an earlier interview.
Totally, which is
Right.
great.
So anything to kind of help your odds. Like, I felt like I was at odds trying to get in, and so like I said, I cast a wide net, and for me, getting that like as early as possible submission
key, yeah.
was and it's not
And it
everyone
takes a
can
lot of
do
stress
that.
off of you.
Yeah, yes,
And
but then
so
you're still
about it-
waiting. But yeah,
And something that I've like realized with that I didn't realize before was like, if you apply early, like it gives opportunities for scholarships. Like you could do the military, you can
Right.
do other scholarships that are available either through like the school or through like what the ADA does. So it's like, there's some perks for sure
Right.
of applying early, getting an acceptance earlier. I think December 1st, right, is when they first do it. So
December 1st.
December 1st, right?
Oh, yeah, I think you said September.
So anyway, we have our application in early, right?
Yes.
Late May, early June, I think is like when the start of the application,
Yeah.
like when they can accept it. And then you get an interview. And what's that like?
Yeah, I think every school is going to have a different interview process, right?
Yeah.
Some are more rigorous than others, but you know, just be prepared with the obvious questions. Like it's unlikely that they'll skip over those. Some yes, but like, why do you want to be a dentist? And you better know that, right? But not only just know it, but have, I mean, I don't want to say rehearsed, but have like an answer.
Know what you're going to say.
Know what you're going to say. They don't want to hear rehearsed things. They want to have conversations with you. Interview process, in my mind, is like, well, at least in like an ideal situation, I think schools are interviewing you to make sure that they can accept you. They're not like, they've already made a decision that you're acceptable by inviting you there.
Yes.
And so you're just wanting to make sure that they don't think, you know, by meeting you that there's going to be some red flags that are going to inhibit your ability to succeed in dental school and in dentistry, right? But as much as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them, because like they know that you're looking at other schools. Everyone's trying to fill their spaces with the best people that they can, and so you should be prepared with your own questions. For at interview day, you're going to meet a lot of people, right? But in your one-on-one interviews with faculty or however they do it, have a lot of questions. And make them know that you're like really serious about this and about them. I think you'll impress them. It's the same with like phone calls to mentors, right? And to networking. It's like the more you prepare for it, the more questions you have, I think the smoother it's going to go.
And the more you get out of it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think too, it's hard to know what you're getting into also. So if you're worried or whatever, look up resources. Go to Student Doctor Network.
Yeah.
And look up the schools that you've gotten interviews to, and see if there's anybody that's gone on there and said what they talk about. I know that a lot of schools do practice interviews. They'll set up things like that. Go utilize those resources.
Oh, like at your undergrad?
Yeah. So it just gives you a better opportunity to practice and not be so nervous when you're sitting there and you feel like everybody's looking at you and trying to decide if you're going to be a good fit or not. You know, go in there prepared and look up some resources.
And I think the biggest thing, and this is so cliche, and everyone's heard this so many times, it's like, be yourself. And it's like, that sounds so simple, but like usually you're not in a stressful situation of being interviewed like all the time. So it's hard to like know who yourself is like while you're getting interviewed, right? So, but try to just be as normal as you possibly can. Try to show like what your character, what your personality is like. And usually, like Jared said, it's like, they are wanting to like get the best class.
Yeah.
So they want to see and ask questions that will let them know like who you are as a person, as a student, what your interests are, and if you're like serious about coming to the school. And that's something that I would recommend very highly, is know the school. I remember memorizing like mission statements and like stuff like that,
Like
the
quotes from
core
people,
values and all that stuff. And like, I don't know if we need to go that far. Like, honestly, like, I don't think there's going to be like any interviewer be like, oh, like, well, what do you like? What? Say what the mission statement is.
The interviewer probably doesn't know.
Yeah,
a lot of times.
No. So that's the thing. It's just like, know the school, know why you would want to go there, and come up with like the reasons for those questions.
For sure. Is that everything for interviews?
Interviews,
so.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's good.
okay.
I think, yeah, on to preparing, right? Like,
Oh,
preparing.
actually, sorry, I do have one more thing. I think if you haven't gotten interview invites yet, it's not the end of the world. Because like a lot of schools, even past the acceptance day, are going to have interview days, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, I think is when networking can also be even more valuable. To still let them know, like, hey, you know, either if you've had interviews or if you want more interviews or whatever, contacting people at that point in the game, it's not too late, right? And making known to these schools that you're serious. I think that's like the most key time to kind of cash in on those relationships that you've been building all throughout your application process. So just that last little tidbit there.
Because for me, I interviewed at least here like in February, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was like late February, and so
That's probably like a third of our class we're interviewing. It would be my guess after the acceptance day.
yeah,
Right.
So
After the acceptance day,
you know, if for me, I didn't have any offers December 1st, so it's
Yeah.
like still like those, they trickled in later, but like to your point, it's like that's not like uncommon, right? So it's like, if you don't have interviews yet, like I wouldn't freak out, but like definitely do your due diligence in trying to be the squeaky wheel and to some extent.
Yeah, and it's if everyone gets worried like I'm gonna be annoying to this person by calling them, they're probably getting so many calls, but like it's not annoying to them because you guys are solving each other's problems. Like they're trying to fill these spots with the best people.
Yeah.
And just because you didn't get an interview doesn't mean you're not the best person for that spot. And so showing them that you really care about that, it's gonna benefit you both a lot. Okay, so dental school.
So you get in.
Yeah, you get in.
Congratulations.
And
what's next? Like what? Like when you guys got and like you decided to come here.
Yeah.
Like what was the next thing? Like what were feelings? What were like? Did you have to finish classes? Like what was that like?
Yeah, I still had to finish a couple core classes, so I had my biochemistry class left, and senioritis had set in big time. I'll be honest. So it was really hard to focus. So I'd have a plan for that. Be ready to really try and, have something in line for those last classes. Because for me, I was like so juiced to get into dental school, but then I was like, oh, I still have a whole like big, heavy biochemistry class that's required for school, and so.
Right,
for
and
me, it was kind of tough.
they do have, most schools do have like minimum grade requirements that they want you to uphold and make sure that you passed everything that's in your schedule. So taking those things seriously is really important. And I mean, you're going to get into dental school and it's going to be hard, right? So you just need to make a habit out of just keeping your A game on, because even when you finish dental school, there's points in dental school where we've just been absolutely slammed. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this to get easier. And I'm just realizing, like, not that it gets easier. I think you just get more used to it and more able to handle the rigors and stress, because the career is going to be hard too. Like, I know in our networking and talking with people that are the next step ahead of us, that getting into practice ownership is really stressful. It's hard. It's a lot of work. So
like always learning, right?
Always.
Like kind of like a continuation of school, right? Like that's why I call it continuing education and like things after school.
Yeah.
For me, I remember getting the call, right, that I got into this school, which like this is where I wanted to go. And I was so excited, like so pumped, right? And then it like sat, like it like all settled down, and like then I was like, oh, like I need to like do school again, because like I had a break. I had a gap year, so I like just was working and things. But for me, what I really kind of wish, if I could go back and like talk to myself, but like when I had the acceptance letter, was to reach out to like dental students at this school, like because like for me, I just kind of wanted to get a better idea. Like that's what I would do. I would try to like just get a better idea of like how it is. And like I don't think anyone can just prepare you by talking to you, but at least like there's like maybe a false sense of just like security, just like knowing that you've talked to someone about it.
Yeah.
Because like you come in and like I feel like we were all wide-eyed. We didn't really know what to expect.
Bushy-tailed.
Yeah, you're just like you have to get through that regardless. But I just feel like there's small things that I look back where I'm like, that would have been nice to like talk to someone at least beforehand. Like for instance, I bought like $500 worth of textbooks.
I did too.
And we didn't use them.
And we never used them because they're online. Because it was online. Like that could have saved me $500 if I just made a phone call real quick and asked someone, right? And it's like you can get contacts from the school that accepted you, right? They're going to be willing. So anyway, that's just like my 2 cents, and like that's a very like localized situation. But like, I just think there's other things that you could talk about. Like for instance, I remember me and you like talking about sim lab and like how like it was so hard not to compare yourself with other people and stuff and like things like that, where it's like they're going to have to go through it. You guys, when you get into dental school, you're going to go through it regardless of how many people you talk to. But it is nice to like have someone to talk to. To give you some information.
And I think you can find like a lot of the same people going to your school on SDN, Student Doctor Network, and other things. But honestly, I would say enjoy your summer. Right? Enjoy your summer, soak it up, just be excited, and it's been awesome being in dental school. I'm actually glad we're making this here at the end as we're kind of finishing. We've experienced dental school, we're on our way out, but we'll miss it. There's a lot of good memories here, a lot that we've learned, and still a lot more that we're going to learn. So don't beat yourself up as dental school is hard, because it's like it's only the beginning of your education.
Well, and I love like yes, it's been really hard, but like I've loved being able to like do it with like everyone. You
Yeah.
know, it's like
Our class
it
is
seems,
awesome.
yeah, it seems like less hard because it's like everyone's doing it. Like I remember us like getting together on Saturdays, and like all my like buddies that I grew up with who didn't go the dental route, like they're doing who knows what on Saturdays and like enjoying it. But like I didn't feel like I was missing out because all of the guys I was like hanging out with were doing it with me. Right. So dental school has been so awesome. I don't regret it at all. It's definitely a road. Like if you're at the beginning watching this, like it is hard, and don't let anyone say that it's not, because it is. It's hard, but it's a good hard. It's fun.
Completely doable.
Totally doable. And this is just a resource, right? Like this is just to help you answer some of the questions that you might have.
Yeah, and finally, we'll just say like a lot of this information that we've shared, some of it is from expert sources as we've like talked to people and got information, but a lot of it is opinion. So it's just our experiences, but we want to help anybody that's looking for a resource. So want to share this with all of you guys, and that's it.